WorldAlign is an online journal aimed at provoking thought and opinion, with the hope to start and deepen conversations between communities and within communities, out of which we may become a better world.
You have 30 seconds to contemplate what question you're going to ask the other person, and is it acceptable you begin?
Sure.
All right.
But can I ask that someone, when we move to public questions, asks me what I think about what Dinesh just said?
Did I forget that?
Okay. Thank you. Yes, actually, I don't have to think about that long. I know what I want to ask him. It's predicated on the last thing that he said.
Now, please go ahead and do that first.
Sorry?
Take your 2 minutes and do that first.
No. I mean, I'll ask him a question. I'll stick to the rules. I will. But I'll just clear my throat by saying, well, I have a reputation to live down or up to or something. The reason I'm asking you this, my dear, is the following. Because I think it's extremely dangerous that you would say that the fact that something acquires mass support and great momentum among the masses means that it must be grounded in historical fact. Because I don't see how in that case there are enough people undergoing higher education here to make it unnecessary for you to finish the thought. So what I want to ask you is this. You know my view, which is not only that religion is false as a philosophical proposition and very dubious as a historical one and void as a moral and ethical one. Would you rather I stayed the way I was, or that I became a person of faith and declared that I believed in the return of the 12th Shia Imam? Would you rather, in other words, I was an atheist or some other kind of believer, non-Christian? And do, but by all means, feel free to give your reasons.
Yes, I'll answer your question. I want to address the point you started out with, and that is, in history, you do have to explain the facts on the ground. So, consider Islam. That's a very good analogy for us to test our thesis. If somebody were to say that the revelations of Allah are fictional, fine. But if somebody were to tell me that the Prophet Muhammad never existed, and the 4 original caliphs, Omar, Uthman, Ali, were all made up, none of them existed, then historically we're faced with a great puzzle. Something happened in the 7th century, what the Muslims call the miracle in the desert, but the truth of it is, where there were just Bedouins before, something got started that became very powerful, penetrated into North Africa, India, took over Italy, parts of Spain, and ruled it for 700 years. The historian has to explain these facts. So which makes more sense? That there was a prophet, and there were caliphs who followed him, just as the tradition says, and as Islamic historians have recorded over the centuries. Are they all lying? Similarly with Christianity, something happened, a lot of people were killed by the Romans because they professed their belief in Jesus. If they made it up, all they have to say is, gee guys, we were just kidding. It worked for a while. What group of people, not 1 or 2, but by the hundreds, would go to their deaths for something that they knew to be a fiction? See, historically, this is what's said. Now, to answer your question about Islam or atheism, I think and really, I must say, this is quite a choice you're giving me for your own future. Let me say that I feel a lot safer debating you as an atheist. So,
excellent. Did you have a question for me? And now, I'll never forget that, by the way, gentlemen. You have an opportunity to ask him a question as well, and if you need a few seconds to think about it, feel free.
In life, there's a lot of uncertainty. Nobody knows what's going to happen when we die. Neither of us have been to the other side of the divide. And therefore, both believer and unbeliever have got to consider the possibility of being wrong. I might believe and discover that I was mistaken. You might not believe and discover that you were mistaken. Have you ever had any serious doubt about your atheism? And if so, what caused you to have that doubt?
Good. If I'm allowed a little throat clearing as you watered yourself, just on this question of faith, and your stubbornness on it, that I didn't say that the people who went to their deaths as Christians were knowingly saying, I'd like to be tortured to death by the Romans for a hoax or for a fraud. I have no doubt, I have no right to doubt, that they did believe it. Just as I have every reason to doubt that every religious martyr since of all faiths has thought that they were going to a reward. I simply say that the very strength of that fanaticism helps to unconvince me of the likelihood of it being true. And actually, they didn't convert the Roman Empire. A Roman emperor became a convert to Christianity, and it's been a state religion ever since, probably very much to its moral and other kinds of detriment. And that's just as much a historical fact. Why you picked the Rubicon, I don't know. That it is certainly not true that we know the date of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth in the same way that we know the date of Julius Caesar's arrival in, say, England, which we know exactly. There's no agreement out of any of the testaments of any of the dates that govern the supposed life of the alleged Jesus of Nazareth. I didn't say I didn't believe in it, in the existence of such a person. So much elaboration has been undertaken around it that it's very unlikely anyone would bother to have fabricated it in whole cloth. But you may not describe it as an event in history. Now, to my own doubts, they're very easy to phrase. What if I was to take Blaise Pascal's wager? Where he says, what have you got to lose? If it's true, you get eternal life and salvation and so on. If it's not, you're exactly the same annihilated corpse as you were going to be anyway. Well, now, I've always thought that, as well as its generally very hucksterish tone, sort of carnival barker tone of this, hey, how can you lose, man? You know, come on, take my wager. There's something, as well as that, that's not moral about it. The inducement is somewhat sick. What it says is, I worship a God who wouldn't know that this was your motive for believing in him. My deity would rather take someone who says, hey, sounds like a no-lose wager to me. Have you got any mortgages I should be taking out? Any underground swamp stock? He won't know that I only believe in him on a bet, because it will benefit me. And that my honest doubts, my absolute, actually my sincere conviction that there is no such person would be rewarded by him for their honesty with eternal punishment. He'd say, well, so now you're here, you offered a perfectly good inducement to believe in me, and you said no, and now I'm going to hurt you. What's moral about Pascal? Hands up. Anyone? Huh? What's moral about that? I say nothing about its truth. So here's my answer. If I turn out to be wrong, I will first say, as Bertrand Russell was invited to say in the same conditions, I could sometimes imitate his accent. He said, well, oh Lord, you did not supply us with enough evidence. That might do as a holding action. I think my next one would be to say anyone can make an honest mistake, and I'm particularly proud of this one.